If you don't live in a, well, cave or just don't know anything at the moment, you realize how badly fucking optimized these games are, by the way. It starts to get very, very concerning, especially with how much money they put into these games. It's kind of crazy because the amount of power that we be putting into these graphics cards, along with the increasing budgets of systems such as consoles, PCs, GPUs in general, somehow we're just still not hitting the 60 FPS mark with some of these systems. Even the PlayStation still kind of struggling. Now, you could say this is mostly to blame for Sony because they're just not fucking upscaling their shit. And matter of fact, sometimes it's a goddamn lie. Same with the Xbox. And there's a reason why some people are still switching to PC, especially in this current economy. Hell, making a PC is still kind of more expensive than a console, but shit, at this point, you might as well do that shit, given how we're actually like witnessing the console market degrading at the moment as we speak. Like, it's actually getting pretty bad, and I can't even defend. I'm a Sony fan, and I can't even defend PlayStation for this. So it's pretty terrible at the moment. Let's just get to that like later. I'm not gonna lie, I might even get to that like a next video about complaining about that. But I think it's mostly to blame for like the DLSS, the whatever the pisser, whatever PlayStation calls it, and FSR and all the other upscale technology, honestly, because it's more of encouraging the developers to not like it's more of a band-aid solution than anything, encouraging developers to not optimize their games at all, because they literally assume that, oh, everyone's just gonna put their DLSS frame gen on and everything, when that shit is not even like completely perfected yet. It's getting better, but it's not perfected. And honestly, it's getting pretty bad even for the game market at the moment. There's barely any developers putting like work to at least optimize their games. I would argue to say there's a handful of games where the games are actually optimized, but any other, it's mostly coming from small studios, if I'm gonna be honest. And it's kind of bad. Like I said, it's more of the game developers just assuming, hey, these cocksuckers are going to play the game on DLSS anyways, so why not even try to optimize it? And the problem about that is that most of the systems are on PC, and the scaling technology is mostly on PC and on the PS5 Pro, which is currently the strongest console in the market as we speak, as of when this video is debuting. And as well as you needing to pay next to $1,000 basically in some places, as I know of, for a fucking console, by the way. Just a console, not anything else, not even the stand. So, and you know what? Remember when in like around like 2020, and when the PlayStation 5 was simply released, they were preaching by the fact that the game developers aren't as limited now from how they want their graphics to be presented. And guess what? Can barely even run 4K. Matter of fact, it can't even do 4K. Let's not even get to that bullshit. Or even the marketing of that bullshit. Let's not get to that yet. It became very clear that the game can't even run that well in the first place doing to that. And in a few years, guess what? PlayStation 4 not for Pro, not 4. I mean, PlayStation 5 Pro came in a few years, and this time they were 100% sure that it would run. Well, that was a fucking lie. Well, let me not say it was a lie, but it's more of a compromise solution than anything. And now game developers would have to take account for pisser, or once again, yeah, PlayStation upscaling, which honestly probably made it more harder than anything, because it's the technology to use to simply mask the limitations of the hardware's capability. And well, it matter of fact, it was used for more of an excuse for developers to be more lazy than anything. Now, I'm not saying all developers are like this. Of course, they put a lot of care in their games. I'm not saying that all developers are lazy in terms of, making their games actually optimized. We got Cyberpunk, which I'm pretty sure, I don't know how long Cyberpunk took, but the game is like near perfect now. Honestly, it's crazy how Cyberpunk went from the shittiest running title to one of the best running games and looking games out in the market. And let's not get too much into that, but we're somehow moving from mass technological breakthroughs into marketing promises that are used constantly, and it's kind of terrible. It's very, very terrible. Matter of fact, honestly, the upscaling technology isn't exactly the only thing I'm blaming. Obviously, we can blame ray tracing too. We can very much blame ray tracing. Ray tracing is not in the same boat as DLSS, but ray tracing is always just thrown at everyone. It's more prominent. It's more in NVIDIA's part than any other company, but more games are not exactly more games are requiring ray tracing, but as of recently, like Indiana Jones is requiring ray tracing cards. So if you don't have a ray tracing card, you can't play the game. You literally can't play the game. Like that's tough for you. And it became like mandatory for all of a sudden. Well, not mandatory, but like mandatory in like presentation that's like known to fucking man. Like, I haven't seen a single game, at least AAA, that is always presenting ray tracing. And most of us gamers don't even give a shit about ray tracing. We turn that shit on once and we say, ooh, that looks nice, eye candy. And for my reason, honestly, I just want to see my waifus in like 4K. I mean, what's wrong with that? But if anything else, there's no reason for you to even have ray tracing. It's not even worth the performance drop for that bullshit. And even how like marketers trying to convince us of how great that is, it's just not. We don't even need it. Like, please stop giving us these ray tracing games. Like, I know it looks good and all, but like, please, it's not worth the performance drop unless you're playing on like a $6,000 PC. Then you can do that. But for most people, they're not playing the game on that. And remember when the game developers are making, well, way back then, game developers were finding their own ways of making lighting, making looks look good without that bullshit somehow. Like, for example, Battlefield 4, or I'm pretty sure maybe Battlefield 3, but it could have been Battlefield 4. They did that shit with some kind of, I don't know how to explain it, but it wasn't fucking ray tracing, that's for goddamn sure. And it increased their laziness in developing the games to just rely on that ray tracing rather than them making their own lighting of how they would do it rather than just using the rays. And don't get me wrong, there's some games that has amazing use of like ray tracing. I'm not saying ray tracing is bad. Some games have great use in ray tracing if you're using the top of the line fucking hardware, that is. But when we're mentioning the laziness of game developers, we have to talk about Unreal Engine 5. Holy shit, get this pile dog shit out of my face. It's actually insane with the amount of polygons that are like on it. And it's one of the game engines that absolutely, well, it was a promise that it would change the game industry, and well, they was not wrong. It changed the game industry, but not in a fucking great way, that is. Holy shit. But in 2025, most of the Unreal Engine games run like horse shit. Like, if don't even dream running a Unreal Engine game without DLSS or anything, any type of upscaling. Well, upscaling, or having unstable FPS in some titles. Most of it is caused by the Unreal Engine. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Unreal Engine isn't bad. It's just terribly like I don't know if it's actually the engine itself or it's the actual like devs. But for example, there's like graphical glitches, terrible like blurring. Somehow the upscaling, downscaling itself, like I can't even explain this shit, man. And I miss the times when devs actually cared about optimizing their games. Remember like games like Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 on the Xbox 360, and somehow the devs got that game to run at fucking 60 FPS with some kind of witchcraft. I don't even know how they managed to do it on a 360, may I add. Well, don't get me wrong, 360 was really ahead of its time, so, but it's still incredible for that case. And games now somehow run worse than how the older games would have run. How is that possible? And nowadays, like, games are now released before they're properly debugged, and getting new like GPUs and such for those games are getting scout. And literally I had to edit some portions of this videos because I was actually crashing the fuck out. Like, I am not even joking. You might have noticed it, but I'm kind of pissed off about this. And they need to like, and with the general greed with like corporations and such, everyone needs to like get their shit together. Remember, PC gaming used to have been like at least affordable. Nowadays, it is not affordable. Matter of fact, shit, it's the same way with console now. Console plebs can't even like say that bullshit anymore. It's becoming equal on both fronts, and there's some console people that still believes that, oh, they're just taking the account for trafficking, the tear-offs and such. Fucking shut that bullshit up. It's just simply a luxury now that most people can't afford nowadays, am I right? Not for some game generous that can run anything nowadays, and they're not tendering towards the actual gaming audience. And the companies stay very, very silent about it. I wonder why. well, this is essentially the end of the video here. I hope y'all enjoy. If y'all somehow managed to actually watch through this whole video, y'all are actually like goated if y'all managed to actually watch this whole video until the end. I know some probably didn't watch the video until the end, but it's okay. I'm just posting for fun, really. If y'all really enjoy it, hey, hit a like, subscribe, hell, even make a comment. I want to hear your opinion about this too, with game optimization and such. Have a good day. Enjoy, everyone.